Hey guys, Preacher 357 here, out here on the range with a gun that I just saw in the shop not very long ago when I picked it up. A gun I've actually been a little bit excited to review, to get in my hands and see how I liked it. It looked interesting to me, and you know, over the last, well, 2.5 years since I started this channel, I have become something of a fan of Taurus. I'm not going to say that you know, I'm a sole Taurus kind of guy where everything I own is going to be Taurus, or you know, all my carry guns are going to be Taurus or anything like that, but I've been impressed with just about everything that I've reviewed of theirs, and that's something of a little bit of a shock to me. Now, I didn't have anything against Taurus, but I figured being a lower priced option, it would be kind of hit or miss with their products. That some of them would be good and some of them would be junk, you know. But everything that I've reviewed, I believe, of Taurus that's come out recently, I've kind of liked. Now, I'm not saying it was my favorite gun ever, but all of them were good guns, and I enjoyed shooting them, and I thought they were, you know, really good guns for the money. And so when they announced a new striker-fired full-size gun, I said, well, that might be interesting. And I was kind of surprised that it was going to be just a straight striker fire and not, you know, like their G3 series. The G3 series, the G3C, you know, those have been such good guns and been such a popular model for them. I was surprised that they went away from it to make this full-size version here. But then I found out it was actually at the request of, I think, the Brazilian police and military were looking for a new gun to adopt, and that they had went to Taurus. Of course, they're a Brazilian company, and wanted them to make a gun to their specifications, and that's what they did. And then they just brought it to the civilian market, and that is the TS9. So I said, this is a very interesting gun to me, just because some of the things on it. Number one, it has a solid top on it. Not something you see very often. When I think of a solid top, a lot of times I think of High Point, you know. But obviously that Kimber Mako that they came out with also had that as well. So somewhat interesting. It's probably not going to throw the brass back in your face, and that's something that a lot of guns will do. They'll throw it back in your face or pop it up in the air and it hits you on top of the head or something along those lines. And with a side only ejection like this, you're not likely to have that. So, you know, as long as it's reliable, you know, I don't have a problem with that. That's not too bad for me. Just looking at the gun, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Steyr models, just the way it looked. But you know, it's not a bad looking gun at all. And obviously this one's in the OD green, the olive drab green. They come in several different colors, obviously black. They've got the tan or the flat dark earth, or whatever color they call it. They may even have a gray. I'm not really sure. You'd have to look at the website and you'd be able to see all the different color options. But I thought this OD green was a pretty decent looking gun, so that's the one I decided to pick up. And I've been out here shooting it and fairly well enjoying it. And so far I've had 0 malfunctions with it, and it's been reliable. It's been a pretty easy gun to shoot. Now, right out of the box, it was shooting to the left, and so I was having to use some Kentucky windage with it quite a bit. But even with that, it was still shooting fairly well. Now, I've adjusted the sights a little bit. I've drifted that rear sight over to the right just a hair to try to bring it a little bit closer to point of aim, so hopefully I'll be shooting it a little bit better in the video even than I was before. But I have really enjoyed this gun, with one exception. There's one thing about this gun that really put a hurting on me, I guess you could say, and that is I got a really bad case of slide bite. In fact, it's the worst case of slide bite I have ever had. I don't know if you can see that or not on my hand, but this sucker chomped down on my hand and wouldn't let go. It's kind of like those snapping turtles we used to have in Granddaddy's pond when I was growing up. That sucker wasn't going to let go until sundown. I had to open the slide back up to get my hand out. And that's because, if you can see here, it's got this solid back on it. At the bottom of the plate here, you probably can't see it, but it's kind of sharp there on the edge. And it caught a hold of my skin there, because I got meaty hands. Got them meaty hands. Had it up just a little too high, and it caught the skin and pulled it right up into the frame, along with the slide. So I could not get my hand removed from the gun without opening the slide. So if you got meaty hands like me, you got to watch out with this gun not to get your hands up too high when you're closing the slide. Now, I hadn't had any issues with my standard hold, you know, while I was shooting the gun. This was just when I released the slide, and I guess I just had my hand up a little too high when I released the slide, and she bit me real good. But not the end of the world. But obviously that would be a problem if you were needing your gun and you got your hand caught in it. But I think that's a fluke probably. It's not something I'm hoping I'll ever do again. But other than that, I've liked the gun fairly well. So why don't we just do a little bit of shooting. But before we do that, I want you to check out the description. I've got a link there for the GOA, the Gun Owners of America. There's a link there for a discounted membership. I've also got a link for the Tennessee Firearms Association. If you live in the great state of Tennessee like I do, and you enjoy shooting and you want to keep our rights and stay free, then join up with the TFA, as we're constantly fighting that battle to secure our rights and to make sure we have all the rights that we should have under the Second Amendment and under the laws of Tennessee here as well. And you know, we've been having some wins and having some frustrations too. So you think in Tennessee that a place that likes to shoot as much as people in Tennessee do, that we just have all the rights already, but our legislature has not been as cooperative as they should be, and our governor, none of our government has been. So that's very disappointing, and so we need to get in the fight and get some Second Amendment minded people, some constitutionally aware people in office up there. But anyway, guys, check out the description there. Hit those links, join up. I don't get any kickbacks from it, get no money from either one of them. I'm a life member of both. I support both, and I do it because I believe in what they're doing. So anyway, let's go over and do a little bit of shooting. I have to load up some mags here. Should have preloaded them, I guess, but that's my lack of planning there, I guess. I've been more of a improvisation kind of guy than I have a planning kind of guy. Fly by the seat of my pants. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. You're faced with uncertain situations and you can make decisions and do things on the go. It's a good thing, but sometimes planning is good as well, and I'm not as good at that as I ought to be. These are 17-round magazines. As I said, this is pretty much a full-size gun, though it does have the shorter barrel. It's probably about a 4-inch barrel. I'd have to check and see exactly what the length of, if it's a 4-inch on the dot or if it's just a hair over. But it reminds me a lot of, you know, the Glock 19X or the Glock 45. It's that style of gun. The full-size grip with just the compact, sort of slightly shorter slide and barrel. Which, you know, for a duty gun, you know, that's what a lot of the police and, you know, what have you like to have, because that way the gun is not as long. When you sit down, it's not, you know, hitting the seat and what have you. It's a little bit more comfortable for them riding around with a gun that's a little bit shorter, and they're not looking to conceal. You know, they're generally open carrying. So, you know, they're not worried about how long the grip is. They want as much capacity as possible. So that's really what this gun was designed for. So it might not be a good option for concealed carry, but if you're someone who open carries a lot, or, you know, then this might be a good gun to consider. But let's just do a little bit of shooting. We'll start over here on the red plates, and we'll see how I can do. I've been shooting so many guns the last few days, I don't know if I'm really used to any of them. As soon as I start getting a little bit used to one gun, I was switching up to another, because I've been doing a lot of shooting, trying to get ready for some videos and get some thoughts down on several guns. Well, there we go. hitting a little bit to the, yeah, it's still hitting a little bit to the left. There we go. Yeah, may have held a little too far over that time. But it's not feeling too bad. I'm just trying to get used to it again. Making sure I understand where it's hitting. The trigger on this thing is obviously a lot different than the G3 series. You know, that G3 series has that restrike capacity, you know, where you can pull the trigger. If it doesn't go off, you can just pull it again. It's like a double action, single action type of trigger. This doesn't have that. This is really basically just like a Glock trigger. It feels just like a Glock trigger. Like with the Glocks, they don't have a spring that resets the trigger, you know, whether the striker is reset or not. You know, a lot of striker fired guns, they have a spring that'll reset the trigger to the front, even if the striker is not reset. Well, the Glock doesn't. It stays back until the slide is cycled, and then when that happens, it pushes the trigger back to the front as well. And this one does the same thing. So it's a lot like a Glock in that regard, though it really seems like it's a thinner gun than like a Glock 45. It's got a really heavy slide. You can feel how heavy that slide is on top. Of course, it's got metal all the way across, you know, as we talked about. There's a little bit of a striker, a loaded chamber indicator right here on the top, right there. It's tactile, and you can kind of see it too. That little bitty thing pops up when there's one in the chamber. So it does have that. I'm gonna try over here on the red plates again, see if I can do a little better. There we go. Not too bad. I feel like I'm sort of getting the hang of it now. But it's not a bad trigger at all. If you just to feel the trigger, it doesn't feel like it's the greatest trigger in the world, but you know, neither does a Glock. Or, you know, a Glock doesn't feel like it's a great trigger either. But it still shoots pretty well, kind of like a Glock. You know, when you're dry firing it, it feels kind of spongy. It doesn't feel all that crisp. But when you're actually out here shooting, you don't really notice that. The trigger feels nice on it. So it's not something that gets in your way. Now it's not going to be like the Canic. You know, that Canic, well, all of the Canics pretty much that I've tried have got just an amazing trigger. You know, those triggers are just so good that they seem to you just shoot themselves almost. It's not to that level, but it's not one that gets in your way either. I'm not unhappy with the trigger. I wouldn't try to change the trigger. You know, if this was going to be my defensive gun, I'd have no problem leaving that trigger stock. It wouldn't bother me in the slightest. And it's definitely a better trigger than the G3 series, G3C has. It just doesn't have that restrike capability like those do. But those triggers, because they have that, are a little odd feeling. You can get used to them and they shoot pretty well. But this gun here has a better trigger than that. You can just see it here. A little bit of take up there, a little bit of grit even. But then when you pull the trigger, see, it's just, there's some creep there. You feel like you've hit the wall, but it still creeps some more, and then it goes off. And the brake is not bad at all. The brake is really not bad once you get to that final wall. Then the reset, pretty good. And you don't feel it on your consecutive shots, because when it goes to the reset, it's a really nice trigger at that point. It's just that initial take up and finding that wall. Well, like I said, when you're shooting the gun, especially when you're just going back to resets, you don't feel that at all. It's a decent trigger. It really is. Probably better than average. If you're going to talk about striker fire guns, it's above average, I'd say. It's a whole lot better than another gun right now that I've been shooting, that I'll be doing a review on soon. Even though that gun is a little better than it was before, it's a new version of that gun. But anyway, let's just do a little bit more here. Don't really want to make too long a video on it. As I've said, I haven't had any malfunctions. It has thrown everything that I could give it downrange. In fact, I was doing a test with another gun, and that gun was not setting off some ammunition. I was getting some light primer strikes, I think, with it. And every one of those rounds that gun wouldn't fire, I put in this one, and it sent them downrange. So it's been reliable. I'm going to go out here to 100 yards, and then maybe to 80 as well. Just see if I can do anything out here. Maybe now that I got the sights a little better on, I'll be able to hit something. Don't know where I'm going. I couldn't tell if I heard that or not. I heard that one. I don't know where I'm going. I can't see where they're hitting, so I don't know if I'm going high or low. All right, I think I was going high. There we go. Well, thought I had it for a second. There it went. So I was going high there initially. So out at 100 yards, I'm not having to hold over at all. So I guess we're getting some pretty decent velocity out of this ammunition, because I was pretty much taking a dead on hold, maybe even just slightly under dead on to hit at 100 yards. Usually you have to hold up a little bit out of distance, but not getting a lot of drop. So let's try this one at 80. See if maybe I can hit this little one. All right, first time. I don't know if I'm gonna try again. Well, let's see if maybe I can get it one more time. Should have stopped. There we go. It's holding too high again. Had to bring it down a little bit. You know, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Especially for the price range these guns are going for, you know. I think it's probably in the 350 range. So similar to what you're going to get with the Canic. And I'm going to say this gun is maybe not as good a trigger as a Canic, but otherwise I like this gun a lot. It's really ergonomic. It feels good in the hand. It feels balanced. Even though it's heavy, it's a heavy gun. It still feels really good in the hand. I really do like this gun. I think Taurus did a good job with this. I bet the Brazilian military and police departments are quite happy with this gun. Yeah, I like it. I do. Yeah, Taurus has been on a roll. They really have. They have gotten their act together. You know, there was a time when people had problems with Taurus, and I've got an old Taurus somewhere. I probably need to dig that thing out, that I had a little bit of issue with, but that's been a long time ago. And you know, I've been impressed with the last several Tauruses that I've done, and this one's no exception. Also with this gun, I didn't mention, you do get 2 magazines. You get 2 other back straps, which I never change back straps. Whatever comes on, it's fine with me. Of course, there's a lock with it I'm not going to use. It's got a speed loader, not a speed loader, but a magazine loader. That's kind of the Glock style magazine loader, which I don't particularly like. And generally, I'd just as soon load them by hand as use one of those. That's why I've been using my Maglula there, my Upalula instead. But you do get a few things with the gun, you know. Kind of like the Canic, you get a lot for your money, and Taurus is putting some stuff in there. Be nice if they gave you 1 more magazine, but I really like having 3, but I understand trying to keep the price down, but I'd be fine if they left the mag loader out and gave me an extra magazine. Let's just shoot a little bit more. I think I've got a few more rounds here in this gun, in this magazine. Let's see. Oh, we got about 9 more rounds in here. and one in the pipe there. Let's just do a little bit more shooting over here. Yeah, it just feels good. There's just some guns that they feel good in your hand, and you get to shooting them and it just becomes second nature. It's like you're not even having to aim. They just point where you want them to point. And this is one of those guns that feels that way to me. Once I get that point of aim and I start shooting, I don't really even have to think about where the sights are or anything. It just comes right back to where it needs to be, it seems like. There's only a handful of guns that really do that for me, and this is one of them. And man, here it is, a Taurus TS9. I'm impressed. I am impressed with this gun. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm actually kind of surprised how much I do like it. And I wasn't sure if Taurus was making a mistake going away from their G3 series, if they just needed to make like a G3F for full size, and because the G3 has a 15 round capacity, so they just make it a little bit bigger. That might have been a better idea from a marketing standpoint, since those are so popular. But yeah, hopefully people will pick up on this gun, and people that like this style of gun, who maybe like the Glock 45 or whatever, will grab one of these and go, that's not bad at all. That's a pretty good gun. Now, it doesn't have the cutout for the red dot, but I don't use those anyway. But you could probably buy one of these and have it milled cheaper than you can buy a Glock with that on there already. So there she is, the Taurus TS9. Pretty nice gun there. Got your Picatinny rail there on it as well. Yeah, I think they did a good job. As long as you keep the meat of your hand out of that slide, because she'll grab you and bite you. But there she is, guys. Appreciate you coming out. God bless you. Y'all take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time.